All right. Hey guys, and welcome to next episode of Serious Business to Casual Look at Strife. Today we've got actually quite a few guests with me. Starting over on the left, we've got Andrew, aka Tfanx.
Hello, everybody.
Next, we've got Jan, aka Wolfjoe.
Hey.
All right. Next up, we got Lakez from TDX.
Hey, how's it going?
Of course, you got the beautiful me. And then we've got Will Dubs, aka Serious Dubs, the man behind the curtain.
I do nothing. Don't believe him.
All right. So we're gonna start off kind of slow. Basically, what we're gonna analyze right now is we're gonna talk some meta changes, and basically, with the advent of Strife Pro League coming out, we're discussing or seeing a lot of changes in the meta. We're seeing a lot of changes with Echo. You hear that? Or is that just me?
I hear the echo.
Just. All right, it was Lakez. Fucking jerk. I hate you, Lakez. Anyway, anyway, so basically what we're seeing is a lot, some meta changes, mostly due to the fact that the patch has now been basically in for more than a couple weeks now. We discussed a little bit a couple weeks ago about the possible changes to early game starting items, especially because Healing Rod is no longer Healing Rod. It's more like a useless rod. But I wanna hear your take. So let's start off. With Lakez here. Lakez, what's your starting item of choice right now, especially coming into the SPL?
So there's actually quite a bit of debate on the starting items that people have been running. A lot of people are really into this Chalice build, and I actually was literally just talking about this prior to coming on the show with Xevil. And a lot of people have been rushing this Chalice, and I'm personally against it. I think that the Fellblade start and not spamming your abilities in the lane is probably a better start unless you're a solo bottom. If you play solo bottom, that Chalice start is probably where you want to go. Or unless you're an AD and you're trying to rush those boots, then the Fellblade start is probably my #1 go-to.
All right, interesting. The Fellblade start. So let me ask you this though. So, for example, how many heroes do you actually use the Fellblade to start out with? Like, would you use it on like bow, for example?
I'm in agreement with running it on bow. I think you should run Fellblade on pretty much everybody that you're not playing solo bottom and you're not trying to rush boots to on. It's just more cost efficient than trying to rush the Chalice. You get more power, and you can even run, if you're worried about mana regen, running the component of mana regen on it. You don't have as much, and you don't have the sustainability, but I think rushing a Chalice, you lose kill potential.
All right, good points. So let's go to you, Wolfjoe. What do you feel about starting items?
Well, it kind of depends on the hero. Like, I like on Hale and Vermilion, I still like going like for the boots bottom and then into either Chalice or the attack speed boots. But on Moxie and maybe all the casters, it's either Chalice or nothing else because you need just the sustainability. But I'm more of a bottom laner, so as like Lakez said, it's more common to have the sustainability because if you lose the lane, you lose so much gold and so much XP. So the survivability is really important.
All right, so let me ask you this: what components do you build your Chalice out of? Do you have vanilla components, or do you use some different components?
It's the big mana chart, but that's why I'm like rotating on either boots or the big mana chart because you can only take one elixir with you if you go for it straight away. So rushing the boots to dodge the skill shots of the enemy bot laner is sometimes better, and then going for the Chalice and just rushing it straight.
Fair points. What do you feel about this, Tfanx?
Well, I feel Fellblade is a great starting item. I personally don't get it myself. I don't think many of my teammates really go for the Fellblade start first. Most of us really want to go with like a sort of mana regen type item because Lakes kind of said like don't spam your abilities, whereas we kind of want to spam our abilities and we need the mana to do so. So for me at least, I start with the Clarity Stone, and I can put that into pretty much my second or third item. So I kind of hold on to it just for the mana regen portion. I know Protag, my laning partner, he usually goes for like just Glacial Gem and then gets whatever item he really wants. But I just know that mana regen is super strong and super needed in order to actually sustain throughout the lane, because I feel like while Fellblade will get you the kill like immediately, it's kind of a money sink. Whereas like you got that 14 power, but afterwards, like what are you getting next? Personally, I like to think like into the later game, so I want to build like farther in rather than staying in the earlier game.
All right, so that's a good point. Do you have anything to respond to that, Lakes?
It really depends. I would say on your hero choice, because some heroes you really want to spam your abilities. But we had this big conversation, and Xevel was on. He was the one that initiated the talk itself. And if you land typically 2 of your solid abilities on somebody, you're going to kill them. So the whole point of spamming your abilities, either pushing your lane, if you have to push your lane, then you may want a little bit of a more regen type build. But I really think that the early game relies on the early pressure. And if you can get kills off of your Fellblade, you're going to snowball a little better than that person that rushed that mana regen and is constantly spamming his stuff. Like Chalice gives you that sustain, and it's good in the early going into mid game, but I really feel like the Fellblade's a stronger start.
These are all great points. I know personally for me, I always start with the big mana regen shard, and I either go into Chalice, Elder Stone, or a Reaper Scythe. I'm not a professional player by any means, so don't take that as law. But I'm definitely interested in trying the Fellblade start now, especially on heroes like Bo. Like you said, it's not necessarily so bad. So, Lakes, personally for you, what do you build your Fellblade with, component-wise? And on the same token, do you possibly have multiple Fellblades for different situations?
So I do have a couple Fellblades. Mana, well, not a couple. I do have 2, a power and a mana. And depending on what lane I'm going for, if I know that my main spells, if I can cast them and land them, and I can kill somebody, then a power start's pretty good. If I want to spam my abilities, I think you have enough mana regen off the mana, building a Fellblade out of mana regen, that it gives you that extra power, a little bit of mana regen, and you can help push your wave a little bit. Like I said, it really depends on who your lane comp, who you're playing against, and the heroes that they're playing, on whether you want to rush that Chalice. But I still feel like the standard start that is probably the best, in my opinion, is going to be the Fellblade.
Yeah, that's what I was personally thinking, just a couple days ago, that it might pay for me to basically build multiple items that I tend to get on every hero. Now, Wolfjoe, what do you feel about that? Do you feel like somebody should... So for somebody, let's say, who doesn't play this game a tremendous amount, and doesn't necessarily have all of the resource to basically spend frivolously, do you think it's better to spread your crafting over multiple items, or to focus on core items and possibly do multiple components for different items?
Well, depending on what heroes you're playing, I think it's better to just focus on building those 2 or 3 heroes right now and finishing those items than having the variation right now. Because like you have special items for Vermilion, but you need a different Zealot's Blade for Hail, for example, or you need completely different items for Rook. So the Chalice, for instance, with the big mana chart, is like good for most casters, but you could also use the like regular one. And the normal Fellbait is good as well. So you don't need like for every hero every special item. That's more like in the end game and for the more specialized player. So if you're starting and want to go into competitive not right now, it's way better just to focus on 1 or 2 heroes.
I do agree with that, because I see a lot of time in my stream, at least, we see a lot of people saying, "Oh, hey, I'm new to this game. What hero should I play?" Or, you know, "I just came from League of Legends. I tend to play blah 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 champion. Which hero should I pick?" And I don't know. I think there's merit to focusing on one hero. I know that we're gonna go to Dubs in a second. I know that Dubs, personally, he spends a lot of time doing some stuff for Serious Business TV and doesn't necessarily have all the time in the world to play. But when he plays, he pretty much exclusively plays Malady. So do you feel that way, Dubs? Like maybe you should focus on mastering one hero as opposed to, you know, jack of all trades, master of none?
If you're gonna be like a casual player, yeah, that's probably gonna be better. I only play Malady and Moxie, so it's just who I know, who I'm comfortable with. I know, you know, how to do certain things with them that I wouldn't necessarily know how to do on other champions or heroes. So it probably, yeah, probably focus on one, find one hero that you kind of like and just stick with it, because ultimately you'll just get better with them. And it's honestly too much in MOBA games in general to try to skip around too much, because each character is so unique. So when you're skipping around, you're I don't know. I don't think you're learning the game as well.
Fair points. We're going to shift a little bit through meta changes to a different type of meta change topic. Now, with SPL coming out and all of these teams trying to compete for first place in this first season, I was curious to see whether or not any teams are actually looking to change up the meta and finding something that may work better, or not necessarily work better, but counter the current meta. Now, as far as that's concerned, how are you guys approaching these SPL matches? How are you preparing? Let's start off with Tfanx over on the end there.
Well, we personally try to do 2v2 matches up against either ourselves, or we also have DTF as our quote-unquote B team, but we pretty much just choose them as like our kind of scrim partners, as well as testing our strategies against each other. What we'd like to do is we like to, you know, go 2v2 in the mid lane, see how that works out. If it doesn't quite work out, then, you know, we'll try something else out. But in terms of like practicing for SPL, our main like focus is just to win our own lane anyway. So if we can, you know, beat our scrim partners and find a good composition, we're gonna definitely stick with that. So that's pretty much our best way for practicing for SPL, because a big focus for us is at least, you know, just win lane, win game. Simple as that.
See, now that's actually an interesting way of looking at it. You know, it's no surprise here. I've come from League of Legends prior to this, and everybody says I'm a broken record, always talking about League of Legends, but it's a method of comparison. We always had those, you know, Korean powerhouse teams and Chinese teams who pretty much believe that, like, as long as you can win your lane, you're going to win the game. Now, as far as that's concerned, do you agree with that or disagree with that? Let's go to Wolfjoe. So, is it win your lane, win the game, or is there a little bit more to it?
Well, with the pushing meta still in place, it's more. It's really like that. If you win the lane, if you get the tower, it's maybe not especially about winning and killing the enemy, but getting the tower earlier than them. So if you do that, you get the advantage. You can roam around. You have more vision than the enemy. You have more space, and that's what it's all about right now. With only the small observatories in place, like you can't really do much if you lose the tower. You lose so much vision and you lose the pressure.
All right. Now, what about you, Lakes? How do you feel about this? Win lane, win game.
I think it's a step in the right direction towards winning the game. I really feel like in order to win the game, you have to keep a constant pressure and keep the team on their heels. If they're reacting to you in every situation, they're wrong. And the reason behind that is it's a pushing meta. So if people are trying to respond to you every time, they're just they're trying to counter your push, and they're not really doing anything themselves. Our game plan going into majority of our matches is keeping the enemy on their heels. So even if we're winning our lane or losing our lane, typically we push to win our lane. Everybody does. So don't get me wrong, win lane, win game. But we try to use our advantage of winning lanes to actually push the other lanes on their heels. We'll roam, we'll do whatever we got to do to keep people on their heels. So I really feel like because it's a push meta, if you're winning your lane and your other lanes may not, I feel like you're doing a disservice to your team if you're not going to help them out and pushing your advantage and pressing people that may be doing a little better than your other lanes. So that's our main focus, is keeping all lanes on their heels. When people start disappearing off the map, we want to make them think that we're coming for them. And that's our game plan every time.
Now, I don't want you giving away all your strategies, Lakes. They may not be happy with you. You've got to keep something in your pocket. But so that's actually a very interesting a way of thinking about it. Just because like this is the pushing meta, it is win lane, win game. Do you guys think that the meta is too restricted currently? Does Strife need to change something, or S2 rather? Does S2 need to change something with the game in order to change up the meta? I know personally, I think that with the ever-impending possibility of jungle, that's going to really switch up the meta. So, do you think that S2 should do something about this? Let's go with Dubs. Do you think S2 should do something in order to force the meta to change up at least, or be more, I guess, breathable?
I can't really say too much about that, honestly, but I will say I think they need to either bring back the old crafting, and, like rebalanced, or do something else with the crafting, because I feel like that's one thing that made the game unique. I think that actually kind of had an effect on the meta back when it was still in existence. But I can't really speak too much. I haven't really done much, theory crafting as far as like thinking about strategies and how the meta works and all that. But I would like to see the crafting back, or a better. The system they have in place now just doesn't really do anything, I don't think.
Fair enough. We'll definitely go back to the crafting system. What about you, Wolfjoe? Do you think that S2 should do something about the meta? Do you think it needs any help to change?
It's really hard to change it right now, but I think that we will see more comms and more variation with more heroes coming out. But right now, I don't know. I don't think it will change, and it's really hard to without completely screwing the game, except the crafting, to just change everything. And maybe another way to provide vision when you lost the tower, because right now you lose the tower, you lose the pressure, and you lose map control, and you can't gain it back. There's no way.
Fair points. Fair points. What about you, Tfanx? What do you think?
I agree with Wolfjoe. Once you lose your tower, you lose a huge portion of the game. There's only 2 wards that are on the map as it is. You lose your tower, they can just go take that anytime they want to for free. I think in order to change the meta, they're going to need to, well, for one, add more heroes. I think that's going to be a great changing for the meta, because they can pretty much say anything they want to for a hero and throw it in and say, this is how we're going to change the meta up. They might throw in some sort of new support, some sort of new carry, some sort of new tank. All of that's going to be able to help fluctuate and change how people play the game. But I also think if they were to bring in more components for the crafting, I think that would be great in order to change the meta. Because right now, as it is, the crafting's kind of boring. It's kind of bland. You see a lot of the same things. But if they had, one or two different more components for whatever it might be, maybe armor, maybe magic armor, maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of ways that they could take it, but in order to add more to your specialization for each hero, I think that could easily change the meta a whole bunch.
All right, and Lakes, what do you feel about this?
I feel like keep the crafting aside, and that's a totally different issue. I feel like the only way to really change the meta would be to change the key components that everyone loves of Strife. One of the things that I feel like could be changed is vision and vision control, but I don't think it's plausible currently unless they come out with different systems. Right now it's a pushing meta, and there's not a whole lot that they can do to change that without changing Strife entirely. And I think it's in a good place where it stands. I think the heroes themselves will change up lane compositions and the way that you might go about pushing versus maybe farming instead. But I feel like currently the meta is the way it is because of the game design, and they would have to change the design to change the meta.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I mean, it's basically push comes to shove. I mean, there's always going to be you can't say always, but primarily, especially in video games, there's always going to be like an end-all be-all method. I mean, that's like the biggest issue with games like, World of Warcraft. There's always that end-all be-all, build or spec, and, they're constantly and tirelessly trying to make it so that it isn't, the min-max spec. You can do whatever you want. And I think that is really similar to MOBA games. You're always going to be looking for what works best, and once you find that sweet spot, it's easy to get caught there. So, even though I think that a pushing meta, I would like to see something else besides a pushing meta, I do think that, if S2 were to change something, we'll just be caught up in the same sort of thing. It's almost like a failure by design of competitive games. The only thing you can really do to mix it up is to play against your opponent and try to expose their weaknesses. Let's go to the discussion on the current crafting system. So, do you guys feel as if, we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, but as far we have a little bit more experience with it, and especially since you guys are now playing more competitively, do you think the crafting system needs to see some more love? Let's start off with Lakes.
I think it does, and it will. I said this in the past, and I've kind of been preaching it, that I honestly feel like what they did was they took away their craft system, realized it didn't work out, and what they did to replace that is they're working on something to designing a completely different system. I think that they realize that the standalone crafting system they have now isn't what we wanted in Strife. They took away a big part of the customization of different items, components, and heroes, and I feel like they're gonna change that. I personally do, because currently it's very stale. So I would be interested to see what comes down the pipe a little later on, but I feel like they're going to come up with something new that people haven't seen before, and I don't think they're going to follow the same steps of making it to where legendary items had such a huge impact on the game, and the fact that if people didn't have legendary items, they were so far behind than others. So I'm interested to see what they change.
All right. Good points. Now, Tfanx, what do you think about this? What do you think about the current crafting system?
Well, for one, I'm pissed off that you can only have 25 items crafted in order to bring into a game. I'm so upset, because I've been trying to do like different things and whatnot, and I don't want to salvage the items because you only get 60 back and you spend 360 in order to craft them. So it's like, well, what if maybe I did want to use that item someday, and I don't really get the option anymore. And right now I can't exactly test out any new builds with their current crafting system because I'm capped at that 25. I think once that's done, I'll be a little bit less upset. But at the same time, I still feel like there needs to be more components to it. There needs to be something else added to it, which I do believe that S2 is going to do, because the last thing that they did was they just completely took out rare and legendary bonuses. Now, who does that without having something else in mind? I think that they took it all out to see, like, okay, how is it just base level? Is this okay? Now maybe we can add something to it. Maybe they'll add, rare bonuses back and completely take out legendary bonuses. That's cool. I mean, I would love that. I think that crafting is gonna take a big step somewhere, probably within the next month or so. Hopefully, with my greatest hope, they at least give it so that I can craft more than 25 or have more than 25 items in my game at one time.
Those are fair points, and I have sorry to interject here, but the conversation in chat, shots fired from Dubs. Dubs says, in regards to your room, Tfanx, I'm pretty sure he lives in one of those houses that Dexter used to murder people. People are talking about your your wall decorations there, man. And then Lake says, where does he hide the bodies?
Snarfy takes care of that for me. He's great for that. But yeah, I've got a shirt right here in the back, and this is a picture of my sister and I, a caricature. But if it's really that creepy, I don't know what to say. It's just the way that my life is, man. These are two great things of mine. Don't talk shit, chat.
My only question is your sister still alive?
Wait, what? Yeah, she's still alive. What?
I just had to get that out there. Alright. Confirmed on stream. Gotcha.
I don't think it's the picture that is creepy. I think it's everything else aside from the picture that is extremely creepy.
Okay, what's the story behind the mask? That's what I want to know.
Oh, I didn't know how much was actually seen. Oh, okay. So this mask over here is actually what I used to do maybe a year or two ago. Is I used to be a glover, so I used to give light shows to people, and that's just kind of my customization to the mask itself. More of like an anonymous thing. So like you put on the mask and they don't see your facial expressions, and they just got what's in front of them. But this is completely off topic, and I didn't know how much was actually seen in my room. From the camera that I see, all I see is like a shirt and the picture in the back. So, sorry it's so creepy, guys.
Question: what is a glover?
A glover is the term for somebody who gives light shows through gloves in your hands. So you've got what would be like black gloves and then like white tips on the end of them. You put any sort of like combination of lights inside of them, and then at like a rave or some sort of like outing, you pretty much flash them in front of people's faces, do cool stuff with your hands. That's it.
So basically what we've gathered from you is that you put on gloves and a mask and then you flash people with lights.
Oh man, this is all in the past. This is all just memories. Anything that's on my walls is just something for me to remember.
But on a serious note, actually, Aranar is also a glover himself. He's like sponsored by some company, but yeah, he's a glover too. Maybe you guys should talk about it. So back on topic, Wolfjoe, your turn, man. Man with the beard. So, what do you think about the current crafting system?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's rather dull. Like you hit the 25 items pretty fast, even though you're just playing like, I don't know, if you're not playing as much as we do, you still hit them pretty fast, and then you're just like, yeah, what do I do now with the elixirs? I'm done. Have I finished the game? Have I beaten it? What's the next point? Like, if you're playing casually, then you're finished. I don't know. So, I really want some legendary bonuses back or anything else to just customize a little bit the playstyle and see some more customization also on the between the pro players.
So yeah, those are fairly good points. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to discuss this because this is something I heard today. I don't remember who said it, but I thought it was kind of interesting. There was an SPL match played today, or yesterday, or something. There was a match played where Claudessa wasn't banned or anything. Claudessa wasn't picked. Claudessa was completely ignored. And this person said, Claudessa's not that strong. She's not as OP as everybody thinks. Now, I want to start off with Tfanx because I know exactly what he's going to say. What do you think about this?
The question is, what do I think about Claudessa and how she is right now?
How she's perceived in the community as being super strong.
Personally, I think she's not strong. For one, you don't get her ultimate at level 6. It's complete poo-poo garbage. Personally, like anybody who plays her gets it at like level 10 and level 11, just because like at level 11, it kind of becomes an okay spell, but at the same time, it's like, what do we really do with this ultimate? It's not that strong. And then like her Q is really nice. Like you get to pull people back. S2 said, hey, we're not gonna have a hero with a hook, and after they give out Shank, they give out Claudessa, and they're like, okay, well, here's your hook again, guys. AoE, too. It's like, okay, what the hell's going on here? But right now, after all the nerfs, personally, I think maxing W is the way to go, just because now you have a huge shield and a heal. My teammates would disagree with me, but I think her W is great. The pull is great to have. You might want to max it because of, cooldown reductions, but I don't know. I personally just wouldn't pick her up just because I could pick pretty much almost any other hero and do the same thing or better, as it is right now.
I think the major argument this person was also making was that Bastion is a better pickup because he's better in the late game. What do you think about this, Wolfjoe?
I think right now every hero who can be played on multiple sides of the map, so solo and on a dual lane, is pretty strong. It's the same like in League, like you mentioned before, where some heroes were popping up which could be played everywhere, and it was just like a switcheroo between the teams where you couldn't tell in the picking phase who's going mid, who's going bottom, who's going anywhere. And I feel it's the same with Claudessa right now, because you can even play her solo. She's that strong. The Q is like, if you don't dodge it, okay, you don't get knocked back. If you dodge it, you don't get knocked back, but you still take a huge amount of damage. So it's kind of like pretty undodgeable skill, and the whole skill set just is pretty good in comparison to some other heroes. Like, I don't know, I feel like Shank is really lacking it right now, and so I still think she's one of the top picks right now. I don't feel like she lost a little bit due to the initial damage nerf from the ultimate, but anything else is just insanely strong and insanely good kit on a hero.
Those are definitely some fair points. What about you, Lakez? What do you feel about this?
I feel like Claudessa, she has good utility in her kit with the hook, the heal, and the AoE attack slow. I do agree with Tfanx in the fact that I've seen multiple people get her ultimate a little later. But I feel like Claudessa, so before the nerf, she was OP. I think everyone probably in this chat could agree with me that because she had that instant damage on her ultimate, she was really strong. You just built power Claudessa, and you can pretty much one-shot any carry once you get a Q on them. But I feel like right now Claudessa still is a very strong pick, and I feel like if built right, Claudessa can be a late game monster. Her ultimate going into late game with items is very strong. Not mid game and not really early game, but late game, the ramp up once built with Claudessa properly is a good kit, and I feel like the way she should be played in the early game is just trying to get those hooks, try to get that harass out. She's got that shield to kind of protect her carries. She can be played in the solo bottom. I think she's a versatile pick that is a good pickup in your team comp. I don't think that you could replace Claudessa with other heroes besides like maybe Bastion or whatever. But I still think Claudessa's kit is very useful in the meta right now.
So let me further this. Is Claudessa for you, a first, like a ban or first pick type hero? If so, and if not, like, are there any heroes you think is like first pick, first ban worthy in this game?
I don't think she's ban worthy, but I don't feel like she's your last pick. I would say that she's a one of the top picks that you can grab. I don't want to get too big into our first pick bans, all that stuff, but
Fair
I feel
enough.
like she's a decent pickup on a team comp.
Yeah, I personally love playing Coletta, so she's one of my favorites. So let's move on from the meta a little bit. We can go back to that in the Q&A section at the end. Let's talk about the launch of SPL. First impressions. Now, three of you here, Tfanx, Wolfjoe, and Lakez, you all are in the SPL. Dubs and I, man, we decided not to get into the SPL because we wanted to make it a fair matchup for all you guys. Didn't want to make it such a pub stomp. Now, for us on the outside, let me ask Dubs, how do you think SPL is doing in since the launch of Season 1?
I don't know if I'm the fair person to ask about that because I know about a lot of the things that are up and coming for the SPL. But I feel like the initial start has been really well, and I think for the most part it's been well received from the community as well. Of course, we haven't really done too many streams like the SPL hasn't, so until we see that first stream, it's going to kind of be up in the air for me because I'm all about the streaming, so we'll have to wait and see. But I have a feeling that the first stream is going to be pretty good, if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, buddy. Oh, I know what you're saying. So, Wolfjoe, how do you feel about the SPL so far? Are you liking it? Are you enjoying it?
I really like the fact that we're having now more frequent matches because, like especially in the last 5 days, we're trying to get scrims going in the EU to get like comfortable with the ban system, and it was really really hard. So it's good to make now serious times to play other teams where everybody is serious, and yeah, it's just I just realized I said sometimes serious on serious business show, whatever. Yeah, so it's way better this way, and I think some teams are really picking up the pace and are really trying hard and trying to compete, and it's not like only one day at the weekend where most people can't play or some people can't play. Now everybody can play because you can make up all the times, and the only thing which is hard is like the NA teams, but the groups are more or less split, so we will only see this in the playoffs. So I'm liking it so far, and especially like also the 1v1 tourney, like it was a good mix-up. I'm all up for it, and especially because it's just such a close beta right now and not even open beta, and we are having a pretty good competitive scene going, I would say.
All right, Lakez, what about you? How are you liking the SPL so far?
I currently feel like SPL took a huge part of the competitive scene in that gap that was there, and they closed it. They put it out there to actually make a competitive scene, and I think the league system itself is fantastic. And I've heard of some of the up-and-coming things that SPL has for the future, and I feel like it's going to be great. Like the fact that you could schedule your own matches, kind of play on your own time, is a great way to look at a competitive scene because not everyone time zone wise is able to play. And if you look at the brackets, they've even got the Filipino teams out there with Frenetic Gaming and War Gods. I feel like it's a real big international community coming together, and in a closed beta, that's extremely impressive. So as of now, especially Season 1, and the fact that they were the first tournament holders to actually establish a pick ban phase, I feel like that's a complete step in the right direction towards competitive play, because now pick ban phase is part of strategy itself and becomes part of your win. Like it's a huge part of the beginning phases of a match, and you could potentially beat your enemy champion or your enemies by outpicking them in the beginning part of the game. So I really enjoy what SPL has done so far.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the addition of the pick ban. I've always been a fan of that. I think it adds a certain depth of strategy to these games. What about you, Tfanx? How are you liking it?
I really like what SPL has been doing. I've been talking a lot with Wilkie and whatnot about like his plans and whatnot. I mean, everything that he's been saying, like he's looking into the future and like all like pretty much just to make Strife a popular game as well as competitively. And I personally love that. I'd love to see Strife actually go somewhere. And I think with SPL, they're really, pushing in for that to actually happen. So, I mean, I've got nothing but good things to say about SPL. I've, talked frequently with Wilkie about like what he's got planned and like, my input on like what would happen. And I think he really appreciates, us people who are actually in SPL to give him feedback and whatnot, because it does seem like he's, taking that to heart and actually improving SPL practically with every day. So this first season 1, I think, getting all the kinks out, making everything, run smoothly. I really, I love the fact that he's doing everything that he's doing. So, I mean, as it is right now, SPL is doing great. And from here, I mean, it can only get better. I don't think it's going to get worse.
I mean, I hope it doesn't get any worse. So, do you guys have any suggestions for SPL in the future? It looks like Tfanx says no. So, as far as suggestions are concerned, I mean, we're obviously in a really nubile stage of SPL, for lack of a better word. So there, we do have a lot of stuff coming out with that. And Dubs doesn't really want to say much of anything as far as stuff that's coming up. But do you guys have any suggestions for SPL? Let's start off with Lakez. And it's okay to say no.
I've expressed some suggestions towards SPL. I think what they're doing with the matchmaking process, I think is good, and I don't think very much needs a change there. I think once more heroes are introduced and the hero pool gets a little bigger, I feel like we should look at changing the pick ban process with different combinations. But obviously, I think that the 1-1-1 is currently the best pick phase you can do with the limited hero pools. It does give a team an advantage, but I feel like the 1-2-2 gives Valor an actual bigger advantage with the smaller hero pool. So I think what they did with the 1-1-1 is a step in the right direction for the time being, with the pool being as small as it is.
All right. Now, what about you, Wolf? What do you think? Do you have any suggestions for SPL?
Well, I think like everybody wants a more organized in-house scene right now, at least with some kind of base ranking system, because I don't think we're getting like ranked play anytime soon. So like Stixer tried it with his IRC thingy, but I think it's like IRC is way too old piece of technology for the current generation. So a web-based one would be really, really great and really wanted, especially in our team, because you can find it in-house and you can like try to do it yourself, but sometimes when you have people leaving, then it takes too long, and just a quick setup would be really, really great right now. Else I will see what the future brings.
I do agree. I think that the Stix's idea for like the in-house in-house tracking was a great idea. I don't think it was executed well, just because, again, like you said, IRC is such old technology. Some people are like, what's IRC? I remember using it back forever ago. But I feel like we have some people now that are born in the generation that it's like, what is this? I don't know what this is. This looks like, programming in C+, you know? So what about you, Tfanx? What do you think? Do you have any suggestions for SPL?
Well, I mean, I do have suggestions for SPL. I have talked to Wilkie mostly about. Actually, it was just yesterday that I brought up a lot of concerns that I had. But just to make it more like public, some things that I have suggested was like an actual site messenger system. Because right now I feel like if you're trying to schedule a match with somebody, I mean, this happened with our team. Like the enemy team never really responded, and it automatically gets accepted. So it's kind of like a toss-up of, you know, do we actually show up and just take the free win, or do we try to, you know, reschedule ourselves and be like, come on, guys, like we want to actually verse you. We don't want just free wins. I mean, if we have to take them, we will. But on the same token, like, why not just, you know, message us back, say anything, really? Like, pretty much like. Yeah, like on-site messaging system would be great. I would love to be able to talk to the enemy team, or even really any team that we're about to scrim, or, you know, about to face, or like I said, like maybe we could set up some scrims, you know, on-site on SPL. Because personally, you know, I idle on SPL just for the heck of it. So I'm sure other people do as well. So, you know, if we're able to message on SPL rather than through Strife, I think it could be better. And I think, I mean, personally, that's like my biggest suggestion as it is so far.
I do think that that would definitely be a market improvement for SPL. You know, and as I keep saying, for a lot of people who don't necessarily realize, I know you guys do, and some of us, or most of us, I could say, do, but you know, this stuff takes a lot of work to do. So, you know, it's keeping that open dialogue with people. It's keeping that that discussion going, especially with, you know, Wilkie, Dubs, Serious Business, i.e. me, I guess, to try to implement these things and see how we can improve this rapidly growing community. Now, speaking of community and community discussion, I always like to do a little ending segment on S2 being awesome. So this week, S2 posted a competition, a desktop creation competition. We've seen some great submissions. Now, this will be, I think, what is this, the second time that S2 has done something, at least since I started playing. The first one was the lore contest, which was, you know, a success. I would have liked to see more, you know, more posts, but, you know, then again, this game is still in closed beta, and there's not a huge market for it. And I really, really like this opportunity, especially for the desktop, because it's a situation where you can actually, you know, rep your favorite and actually use the desktop. So, you know, let's go to Dubs. I know he submitted a few desktops. You know, are you enjoying this? What S2 is doing for the community in involving?
I definitely think, you know, they're taking the right approach by involving the community, because that's something that, you know, some of the other larger games haven't done well. I mean, I guess I can't really say that. But they're doing the right thing, but they just need to, I don't know, I almost feel like they need to do more, but it's hard for them to do anything, because, I mean, the game's still in closed beta, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Yeah, the game is still in closed beta, so they're not going to really invest as much time into things like that yet. So the fact that they've done anything at all is kind of a miracle in itself, I think. But I did enjoy making, you know, the few wallpapers that I did. My favorite was the Oprah one. Just throw that out there.
Oh my God! So for those of you who don't know, on my Twitter, I posted a picture of Oprah with a pirate's hat, a pirate eye patch, and stuff like that. Dubs decided to make a new skin idea for Caprice, which is Oprah Caprice. What is it called? Caprice. Yeah. Caprice's model, and it's terrifying. It's got a little picture of Dr. Phil, and I won't link it to the stream because it's just so terrifying. But yeah, I mean, I'm really digging some of these backgrounds. I mean, I'm going to link Sarah's Dubs backgrounds. You know, shamelessly plugging Dubs. But as far as this community involvement is concerned, I mean, do you guys have any suggestions possibly for S2 about, not necessarily, I think they're doing a great job, I don't think they need to improve, but suggestions for further involving the community? Let's start off with Tfanx, who's raising his eyebrows. I think he's got something to say.
I mean, I think S2 is definitely taking a step in the right direction. They should be adding more community-based things that are not necessarily like in-game Strife related. Like, I really like how they're saying, like, oh, hey, make a background for, Strife, and we'll, give you whatever. And just like more like artistic things that can go about. I mean, maybe even add some community like lore contests as well, because as it is right now, I think some of the heroes, in my opinion, don't exactly fit. I think they just put them in there because they're a great design or whatever, but at the same time, I don't think they're exactly like Strife related. But then again, that's just my personal feeling on it. But I mean, just anything that's out of game to involve the community, just to like more have like relationships with each other, and like, hey, this would be awesome if this was like this, and then people can just bump off ideas like that. Still Strife, still on the idea of Strife, but not necessarily like skill and gameplay. I think they could do a lot of things. I don't have anything like off the top of my head like specific, but anything that's community oriented, I think is a great idea.
Yeah, I do agree. I think S2 is doing a great job with involving the community, especially with listening to the community on Reddit. For those of you who aren't on the Strife subreddit, it's a great place to talk with the community, and S2 does troll around on there, finding suggestions, and they have a constant open dialogue. What about you, Wolfjoe? Do you have any ideas as far as further community involvement for S2?
I think as you just mentioned, Reddit right now, like a AMA of maybe like the different departments of S2, like I know they're like quality testers, I know they're like champion, maybe hero designers, I know they're like competitive scene observers, or however they are called, like doing AMA, rotating them around, because like S2, they don't want to go open beta now because the game is not finished yet. That's obvious. So it's either artistic styles or answers from them from the different departments. So that's like basically it. I think lore is kinda, for some people it's really, really important. For others, they really just don't care. But it needs, as Tfanx said, it needs to fit. If it doesn't fit, it's just kind of weird, especially for those fanatics, more or less.
Fair points. Now, what about you, Lakes? How do you feel about that?
I think as far as how early, I guess you could consider Strife in pretty early beta right now, even though it's been out for a while. I feel like keeping the community involved is really important, especially on Reddit. They're real quick about taking some of the suggestions and complaints when they release some stuff and coming up with better solutions. Like in the past, people were complaining that Claudessa upon release was extremely strong, and not too long they did a hot fix on her. So I think keeping the community involved in their changes and listening is the best way that they can go about building the game. But I don't want to see their resources being utilized to try to like build this huge community fan base just yet, because the game still needs to be polished. There's tons of things that they need to do. They need to have more heroes, a new design of the crafting system. Like there's tons of things that need to be changed and built up before they actually start to put all their resources into this big marketing product. So once they get the baseline of the product being polished and finished, I feel like they can actually push out to a larger community and get people involved a little more.
Those are all great points. Now, I encourage the chat right now to please try to make some comments or questions rather because I do have a few questions here for our panel to answer. Some of them are trolley questions. I don't mind trolley questions. They are hilarious. So let's go with the number one. Let's start off kind of small. Rogine808 says, okay, my question is, how useless is Shank? Now, let's go with Wolfjoe on this one. How useless is Shank, Wolfjoe?
Depending on competitive and public, I think he's pretty useless right now. He's one of the most useless heroes because with the meta shifting for more tanky heroes right now, because the others are banned, obviously, so it's right now more tanks. It's you either hook, you can't reach the backline and you miss your hook, or you hook a tank and you get owned, basically. So it's not like Patch and Dota where you could like hook from like another dimension, hook people in. It's like the range is basically just a little more than Claudessa Q. So it's not that much so to get an opportunity out of it. And also he has a problem at first to getting to 6. If you don't get to 6, you can basically just do that wait in the lane. You need a supporter like Ray or anybody carry out of the laning phase, and it's so hard, and like in the pushing meta not relevant right now, sadly.
All right. Do you have anything to add to that, Lakes?
So I've had this debate with a lot of people, and it's specifically been on Gamebox, these debates. I think that Shank can be a make or break. Like Wolfjoe said, if you hook Bastion, congratulations, you just lost your team fight. But I really feel like Shank could be useful if he's not your main tank and you're not relying on the hook for an initiate. I think that late game Shank being a bruiser is a good thing. He needs to be played right and by the right person with the right follow-up and the right team comp to be a completely, hey, let's grab our Shank. In the scrims that we've done in the past, when someone picks a Shank, it's never, it doesn't work out that great. But then I also know some really great Shank players that actually position themselves to flank and grab people and burst them, because Shank can stay on you if he wants to and just auto attack you. So if you have good follow up and it's put together properly, I feel like he could be useful, but I would rather have a different hero, if I could say that.
All right. Now, what about you, Tfanx? What do you think about Shank? How useless is he?
Personally, I think that S2 managed to take the most fun concept of a MOBA and make it the least enjoyable experience for both the person playing Shank and the person being hooked by Shank. I say that because in every other MOBA, you throw out your hook and they're just immediately brought back to you, right? And it's just like, oh god, like what just happened? Whereas in Strife, you throw out your hook, you grab them, they have a minute to say, use Stone Skin or Pincer, and then it's like, well, no hook anymore, guys. I don't know what to tell you. I'm Shank. It's like, oh, well, okay, thanks, Shank, for being there. What are you going to do for us now? Well, I guess I could, shout at them and make them run slower. Like, thank you, Shank. Thank you for being part of my team. I mean, I don't know. It's just the most dissatisfying hero I've personally ever seen created, whereas some people are just, all about Shank. They're like, this guy is awesome. He's got a hook. It's like, well, good for him. I don't know what to tell you. It's not that great. I don't know. And from 1 to 6, like Wolfjoe was saying, you need somebody like Ray or, in my opinion, like Moxie or maybe somebody else who can pretty much 2v1 as it is, and be effective by maybe taking a Luster and going into the jungle, but then you have Luster as your pet, so you don't have any useful ability other than to farm really hard. So I don't know where it is right now. I don't see Shank as being very good at all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk too much smack about the hero because it'll only get worse from here.
Now, a follow-up on that, Dorkimus Prime asks, what kind of changes to Shank would create a more impactful laning phase for him and his lane mate? Now, I'm gonna let you guys touch upon that, but I'm also gonna touch upon his ultimate. I think, the biggest difference as to what Tfanx was talking about, the whole point of a hooking champion, of a hooker, essentially is to sell their body for money. But for somebody like Shank, essentially somebody a hooking hero or champion, it's supposed to catch somebody off guard, and with Shank, it's so easy to react. So I think for Shank's ultimate, I think S2 may consider increasing the range on it. I mean, that could have negative impact, especially in combination with Spring Boots and Windrush. But being able to hook from the high ground or a bush somewhere further away can make a more devastating ultimate for Shank and his team. So let's go back to the question: what do you think would create a more impactful laning phase for Shank? Let's start off with Wolfjoe.
As you just said, increasing the range on the hook would really help. Maybe if you just increase the range by a huge amount, and then just disable the spring boots on it, like that you can't do the ultimate, then jump away, increase the range due to that. That would maybe fix something. And I don't think the problem is the Q is really low on range, so you can't really attack every creep in a creep wave on the laning phase. So you need to stand directly between them. When the enemy team is then pushing and you need to go that far in, you're pretty much the free target and you can't really do anything else. Then there's a W. Without a helper or anybody else, you just slow them and you do nothing. You can only slow them, and you need to rely on another hero here. It's no damage. There's nothing on it else except a huge throw, and the movement speed bonus can't be utilized in the early game on the lane because you just sit there in the position and the creeps are that strong in the early game of phase. And then there's the E, which is just armor buff and the attack speed buff, but you need to attack 3 times. So that's all relies on you standing in there without being tanky in the early game. So, which you aren't. Most people like Bastion or anybody, or maybe even Bo, is more tanky than you in the early game, and that's just a huge flaw.
So it looks like people are saying to Wolf Howl or they're going to riot. It seems. So, I mean, that's your call, Vid.
That's for the end of the show, don't it?
All right. Wolf Howl at the end of the show.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to a next question here. And this one's also for Wolfjoe from That Chin Guy. I think that's Thatchy. How do you nurture a beard as beautiful as that?
Well, I'm not into nurturing yet. I read something on it because it's serious business out there. But it's just growing from Christmas right now, so it's not that far. I want to have it grow for at least a year and then see how it's doing. But I should probably read out on that and prepare for nurturing my beard right now. He's probably right.
Hey, you can have a nice conversation with Joe.
Oh yeah. We need to do our beard off. That's promised, and we need to do the beard off.
2 Joes on a beard off. Oh man. All right, so let's see here. I'm not going to let you answer this yet, Wolfjoe, since it is your question. Let's start off with Lakez here. Wolfjoe asked earlier today, what do you think about something like an extra item slot with Dota 2, like a TP with a huge CD to prevent pushing? And on the same token, what about using a rune like they do, to make your buildings invulnerable to prevent pushing? Do you think that'll add a breath of fresh air to the meta? Do you think it's needed?
I feel like, aside from the TP thing, they have that built into boots. So I could see why you'd want to build different boots and have some sort of utility of a TP. I'm personally very biased about something like that. But I feel like something like making a tower and not be able to attack or take damage could be used into an item with a cooldown. So it could be used strategically, and then it wouldn't be as overpowered as having it into like a utility slot, I guess you would say. It would have to be one of your core items that you'd have to build in to, because I think disabling a tower is very huge, and especially with the pushing and the pushing meta, being able to disable that tower while either taking it or diving your enemies to kill them and then take your tower is very strong. So if they were to put a mechanic in there like that, I'd rather see it on an item where someone would have to build that onto their hero and take a slot from them versus having it into a separate utility type slot.
How do you feel about that, Tfanx?
All I can really say is Syndara. Like she, disables towers in that sort of sense. But I mean, for like teleporting or like making your tower invulnerable, I think for the whole making invulnerable wouldn't make much sense, because you'd probably use it every time maybe you died or whatever, so that they couldn't hit your tower very hard. But as it is right now, towers go down like paper. I think if they increased the armor of towers as it was, or maybe even gave them more HP, something like that would be great. In terms of like teleporting to towers, I think that would be a lot of fun to use, but then it would also kind of make warp boots not such an important buy. So I'm not exactly sure in what direction S2 should go as in terms of like activatable items in order to defend or attack towers, but those two options are kind of already in the game. And with the addition of like Syndara though, she already takes towers for free and pushes really hard as it is. So I think with defending towers, they could definitely do something in order to increase the ability to do it. Because as it is right now, if you die, you've lost your tower, and I don't quite like that, but it's just the way that it is in Strife right now.
Now let's go to the question man himself, Wolfjoe. What are your thoughts on this? On your own question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, it would increase only one time. It depends on the cooldown, of course, on the TP, but it wouldn't increase like the action on the map as well. Like, it wouldn't have set stale lanes, I think. But I'm not sure. Like, it's like something S2 needs to try out, because that's like a huge change in the gameplay mechanics. But I'm all up for testing right now, because it's still closed beta, and we need to try something out, because I think it's not that stale, but it's kind of boring, and maybe even boring to watch if everybody just stays on their lane all the time till mid game.
Fair points.
I know that League of Legends had a similar concept in being able to put it into your summoner spell of making your tower invulnerable and make it attack a little faster, and that was really quickly phased out just because it was able to be chained up between multiple heroes. I don't feel like that's the right way to stop the pushing meta. I'm personally think that they should make towers a little stronger in the early game, so they're not easily as pushed down. Like Tfanx said, and we've talked about it off of this stream in Gamebox as well, that if they made towers a little stronger, it would give that ability, if you did die, to get back to your lane and maybe salvage something. It would stall the game out a little bit, but I feel like Strife is such a quick, fast-paced game anyway that it's not that big of a deal. So I think the easy fix right now would just to change the tower mechanics just a little bit to stop the pushing meta or make it not as strong.
These are all very, very good points, and I think we can like sit here and talk about this for hours. But I wanna end on kind of like a creative, happy note. We had Wilkie actually ask, and this is kind of a two-part question, one from Wilkie and one and more of a comment from Dorkimus Prime. Wilkie asked, if we could get a new pet, what would you want it to do? And Dorkimus Prime asked, he said he proposed a support pet with the active being a ward that provides vision. It got mixed reviews. What do you think a support pet should have to make it viable competitively? So let's start with you, Tfanx. What do you think if a pet was to be added to the game? What should it do? And along the same token, how about a pet that adds a ward, at least for a small period of time?
Well, I am definitely down for any sort of supporting pet because as it is right now, there's a lot of active abilities that are more geared towards like attacking and like more being offensive, whereas there's not many like supporting and defensive pets. I mean, you have Pincer, and can't really think of off the top of my head another defensive pet, but pretty much as it is right now, there's not many support geared pets as it is, so having another one would be great. The idea of having the ward as the active part of your pet, I think would be, I think that would be actually pretty good. I would definitely pick it up for the heroes that I play. The only problem that I'm thinking is what would the passive and the level 6, or what is it? Yeah, the passive at level 6 and then the active at level 3, what would it get? I think they could actually do a lot with that in terms of like creativity and what would actually go there. Having the ward active actually might be a great idea for a pet because as it is right now, all you have are those 2 towers, or what are they? 2 ward spots on the map, and then you have Seer's Eye, which nobody really picks up because for many different reasons. But the way I feel, it's just not really a necessary item considering the map is so small as it is. But if your pet was able to, give you vision of a certain spot, I think that would be great because then you can make it more support based anyway. So there could be a lot of options that you could go. Maybe even make the luster into a more supporting thing. I don't know, but there's definitely a lot of things you could do with just that idea of having a ward as your pet's active.
Now, what about you, Wolfjoe? If you could add a pet, what would it have, and what do you think about a ward ability?
The problem with the ward ability again is if like this is something I think S2 didn't want to do because then people who are playing supports need to pick the pet up and force them into like a specific pet. I mean, for competitive, of course, it would be good because it would like increase our vision again and would maybe make up for some plays. But I don't think like wards for the winning team are also like a huge boost to make them move on the map more freely. So that's like the problem as well. Like if you give vision to the losing team, you get also vision on the winning team, and it's really hard to combat that. Else, what I would like to see, I'm missing the magic resistance on the on the Razor though, because that like stopped some heroes like Moxie, the Moxie dominance on bottom lane that would maybe open some other bans in the SPL. But else, I don't really thought about new pets yet. I will just get what I take. I will take what I get.
Fair enough. Now, what about you, Lakes? How do you feel?
So just to comment on the support with the ward, I like the fact that people feel like there's a deficiency in the ward system because everyone feels like that. The towers or the observatories, they're there. They don't give you all the vision you want, but I feel like having a ward on a pet leaves little to no counterplay and forces your team to actually pick that up to equal that. And I don't think that that is the step in the right direction to actually fix a warding system. Now, as far as a new pet goes, I feel like if you were to pick a support pet, something as simple as like maybe buffing an ally's attack speed or giving them a shield or giving them attack damage, like you can activate that to use on someone else, could be a better support pet, but I feel like a ward pet is just in the current state of the game would be it wouldn't be good for Strife. There's little to no counterplay right now, and they'd have to change a complete ward mechanic to actually make that work. But I feel like the making a support pet be able to have those abilities to target someone else on your team and give them a buff or a shield or movement speed or something else could be very useful.
I think that's a fair point. on wards, in the current meta as far as having those obelisks. Now, I want to finish off this question with Dubs. I'm talking big game here. I think he's going to have the most creative answer. I don't know. But what about you, Dubs? How do you feel?
They should add a pet that allows you to spawn more minions. That'd be cool.
That'd be interesting.
You could push towers. You like walk straight up to the tower, spawn a minion, bam, you're pushing the tower. See?
What would the pet look like?
It would look like a minion.
The pet would also be a minion?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a brawler pet that spawns more brawlers?
Yes. That.
Yeah. All right.
I actually work at S2. That's one of the pets I'm working on right now. So.
Yeah. What's the pet's name?
It's called Brawler.
A brawler pet called Brawler that spawns brawlers. Fair enough, man. So meta.
Yeah.
Is that actually is your shirt actually a real life picture of Bounder? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a Bounder. They're actually adding Bounder skins as far as part of the S2 development. They're going to be doing a goat skin exclusively, and this is actually one of the T-shirts you'll be seeing pop up with S2 stats. All the staff members already have them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on pet skins right now. It's really great.
Yeah, I don't want a Moxie shirt anymore. I want that hyper realistic Bounder shirt.
Yeah, I can. I'll talk to Cell about getting you one.
Awesome, dude. All right, so we're gonna close this out. I think it was a great show. I'm gonna go down the line one more time. We're gonna start off here with Tfanx. Thank you, Tfanx. His team is Too Funk to Dunk.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun to be on the show today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming. Next, we got Wolfjoe, Reason Gaming Wolfjoe, our Wolfjoe.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun, really.
All right, man. Good job.
I can't do it that loud. My roommates are sleeping.
We heard it. That was awesome. All right, and we got Team Dynamics Lakez.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show. I definitely appreciate the good conversation with everybody. Where was your head going while you were howling, by the way? Like, it just disappeared in your lap, man. It was kind of creepy.
I think he was bending over to his mic. Either that or pleasuring himself.
Yeah, I was bending over to my mic. I can't, as I said, like, my roommates are sleeping at 3 a.m. already. So.
Yeah, we need to get you to bed, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe. And last but not least, we have Dubs, Serious Dubs, the man behind the curtain. Thanks for coming out, Dubs.
Yeah. I just gotta say, like, I gotta go here soon. I gotta work on more pet designs and pet skins. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And the Caprice, the Caprice skin.
Caprice
skin. All
yeah,
right, cool.
That's coming out next week. So.
Awesome. So remember, guys, from Serious Business TV, from all of us, Serious Dubs, Serious Vexy, everybody behind the scenes, all of the writers and everything. Thanks for coming out, and again, last thank you from Too Funk to Dunk, Tfanx, Reason Gaming Wolfjoe, and Team Dynamics Lakez. Be sure you root for your favorite team in the upcoming SPL season. Enjoy some Strife, and remember, guys, never hesitate to ask any questions, make any suggestions. We're always listening, and so is S2. You guys have a great one. Don't take things too serious, all right?